Kim, what's on your radar?
Well, as you know, and as Robbie discussed yesterday in his radar, the Supreme Court blocked Biden's OSHA vaccine mandate for companies with 100 employees or more. Now, this seems like a win, and many people celebrate it. However, it wasn't the big win we were hoping for. And the reason is there were a few things SCOTUS didn't rule on. And those things were, unfortunately, the very things many of us were hoping for them to address. Now, when SCOTUS halted the mandate, the reasoning was that OSHA lacked the administrative power to implement such widespread measures. The justices argued each workplace is different, that vaccines are not like protective hard hats or other workplace-specific safety measures that stay behind after you leave for the day. On top of this, workers in solitary jobs or other low-risk professions shouldn't be treated the same as those working shoulder to shoulder in confined spaces. And because of this, they ruled the OSHA mandate was too broad, that Congress haven't given them the authority, and if Congress wanted them to have it, they'd need to vote on it. But what the Supreme Court didn't address was the human rights aspect to the vaccine mandate. And they also never questioned the soundness of the science. And what I mean by that is, despite how effective you might think the vaccine is or isn't, it's really beside the point. Shouldn't the government or your boss or whomever is requiring you to take maybe this vaccine or a different vaccine or a medicine or a treatment or a procedure or whatever it is that you are being medically required to undergo, shouldn't there be some sort of standard of proof of efficacy? Can they just say, look, you're mandated because we say this works and it doesn't matter what you think. We proclaim it works and so you must take it. Is that the power we want to grant bosses or the government? Shouldn't there be some sort of burden of proof? The Supreme Court never addressed this fact. The vaccines are not stopping the spread of the virus. They didn't even go into that. They didn't really touch on the reasons that were being coerced into them. There was no standard set for a boss or government to meet before forcing people into whatever it is they proclaim they must do. Shouldn't we set some sort of factual basis for the requirements, or are we just going to leave it to the discretion of public health officials who may or may not have their own agendas? What the Supreme Court didn't even touch on was this burden of proof. And apparently there is no burden. If they, whoever they are, be it public health officials or even politicians, determine the public must do some medical something because they claim it will do X, Y, Z for the public good, there is no requirement set for how much evidence they need to provide us before they're allowed to force it upon us. So don't we have a right to ample evidence, indisputable evidence, before we're coerced into something? Maybe not. But that's something many of us wish the court would have addressed. Now, the human rights aspect, my body, my choice, is another aspect the court didn't touch. Never did they bring up the question of what sort of domain does a person have over their own body and their own medical decisions. A key question many of us against the mandates wanted answered was whether or not the government or a boss has the right to make medical decisions on our behalf. Every day we follow rules and guidelines that don't allow us complete and total freedom. I'll give you that. No, we cannot just ignore road signs. Yes, we must wear seatbelts. No, we cannot smoke wherever we want. But these are not medical decisions. Do we not have a right to our medical domain over our own bodies? Maybe not. That's something the Supreme Court didn't touch on. The closest they came was when Sotomayor claimed that the human body emitting a virus was no different than a machine spewing toxins. She believed a human is no different from a machine at work and thus is entitled to the same rights and non-rights. The Supreme Court didn't end the mandates. They just shifted the responsibility on who could enforce them. They blocked OSHA from mandating the vaccines for all companies with 100 or more employees, but left the door wide open for corporations and states to mandate at their pleasure. They didn't address the scientific question of the mandates, nor did they give we the people domain over our own bodies. And that is the big issue that I noticed when looking at this SCOTUS ruling. Now, one thing to note is that all they did was just put a stay on it. It's going back to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. They're going to be debating the merits of the actual mandate, and that is likely to go back to the Supreme Court. And they're likely to, if it goes back up to the Supreme Court, they're likely to strike it down. But again, it wouldn't be on the merits that many of us were hoping SCOTUS would actually address, which is what sort of individuality do we have, or freedom of our own bodies, my body, my choice. Maybe it's my body, not my choice. They didn't even address this. They didn't even address the burden of proof that the boss or the government has to come up with before they mandate something on you. So I think that's very concerning for many people. It's just now anybody can mandate anything at you. I don't. What do you guys think of this?
Well, they were. I think to be fair to them, they were not deciding that question, right? They were looking at
what they were called to do here was evaluate whether OSHA has the authority to issue this mandate under the act, whatever the act is that gave them this power, when it was passed. So they weren't really being. The question you're raising really wasn't, which is more of a, if Congress was passing a vaccine mandate, which I don't want them to, but I would hope they would raise the question you're raising, and for those reasons not do it. SCOTUS is supposed to be is kind of is just the last resort. Well, the procedures were wrong, so you can't do this, or you've interpreted this authority wrong, that kind of thing. So I think that's my read of it. I agree with the reasons you're giving for a mandate being bad. I just the Supreme Court was just kind of saying, and honestly doing it, they're supposed to do that, because if they take it to the extreme, that you're saying, then they're going to get accused of being partisan or accused of being, really one-sided. So it's almost better, I think, if they do in this, well, we're not really going to weigh in on the vaccine mandate. We're just saying this was wrongly kind of enforced. So it's almost better. They keep their hands clean if they do that.
And to me, the part of it that got the least attention might have actually been pivotal, and it seems that way from what Kavanaugh said, and that's the testing. Kavanaugh pointed out that the testing comes at the expense of the employee, and at significant expense and difficulty in acquiring these tests. So if we were in a world where you were mandated to either get back vaccinated or to show up, and there would be a test there waiting for you for free, that you could take, and it's 15 minutes, then it becomes really hard to say that that's some type of extreme burden that you're placing on somebody. You're not requiring them to get a jab. You're not requiring them to pay out of their pocket to buy a test. You're not requiring them to run all over town and try to find a test on their way to work when they already have to get to work on time. If you made it simple like that, then you could see how even this court, as currently constructed, might have said, this feels fair, because then it also brings it specifically back to the workplace. Because one of the things they said is that you can't unvaccinate yourself after you leave work. Right. But if there's a test and you have to take that test in order to get into your workplace, that is quite specifically a workplace-oriented policy at that point.
Yeah. I mean, would we be okay with drug testing everybody upon their entrance at work?
I mean, it's legal, right?
Well, right. I wouldn't be okay with it, but I don't know that would the Supreme Court say that OSHA is allowed to do that might be a different thing. It could be bad without being unconstitutional.
And if they wanted to give a blood alcohol level test to train operators. Right. I'm sure people will be like, okay,
or truckers.
That's fine. Or truckers.
Right. Although they wanted to give a blood alcohol test to literally everyone who works at any private company that employs more than 100 people, and if they just said OSHA already has the power to do that, I would probably hope that they lose, because that would be insane. Which on some level is exactly what this is. Right.
I mean, it's not. But being drunk's not contagious. It's only a public health problem if you crash into somebody else.
Sure.
Right, yeah. But I mean, we don't want that. That's why you're not allowed to drive with a certain level of blood alcohol, right? So, I do want to mention.
We won't get into my libertarian views on the blood alcohol limit levels, those lying breathalyzer devices.
Whatever, just do whatever, as long as you don't crash into somebody. Once you crash into somebody, then you're in trouble.
Well, the roads were privatized anyway. Never mind.
Okay.
There is that libertarian argument that says that it shouldn't be illegal to drive drunk. It should be just illegal if you crash.
Right. Yeah, right.
I used to have an idea that there should be a drunk driver's license, that you should be able to, get drunk, take a breathalyzer, and then take a driver's test. And then if you pass, you're like, you know what? At 0.04, this person's good. So then your license allows you up to 0.04, 0.06, whatever it is. I don't think that would fly.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so.
No, it's a good idea, except I think that people that have high levels of alcohol and tolerance, that they're maybe bigger people, it would be discriminatory. Come on, right?
Well, no, the level accounts for it. It could be discriminatory along gender lines, right? Because of the way that blood alcohol works in men and women. So that's true.
And even amongst races, probably as well. Because I know, like being Asian, for example, I get red face. There's like a different physiological effect that alcohol has on me that other people don't have. I get the embarrassing red flush and redness all over. So you can know when I'm drunk. You'll know if I ever show up to work here drunk, right? My face will be bright red. Yeah. But I do want to mention before I just finish off this radar that there is a Defeat the Mandate march happening in Washington, D.C. this Sunday. People are gathering together. I know people will be descending upon D.C. Saturday. They're registering on Saturday, and then Sunday the march happens, and that is at 11:30 a.m. from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. And a lot of the big names that we've even talked about here on the show that are controversial names, like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Robert Malone, I know RFK Jr., Brett Weinstein, they're all going to be there. And so they are marching to end mandates, and not just these mandates that SCOTUS ruled on, but also vaccine passports, like Robbie, you saying that you had to go and show your passport and your ID in order to go to dinner.
Just did it for the first time in D.C. Yeah, last night. It was obnoxious.
Yeah, so they're gonna be doing End the Mandate. So it's defeatthemandatesdc.com, and you can check it out. So I was gonna go, but I'm in quarantine with COVID family, people with COVID. So
you'll be there in spirit. Maybe I'll check it out, and you'll be there in spirit.
Yes, there we go. Live stream it for me.
All right, I love when our little discussions go so far afield. We start talking about blood alcohol level
and red flush faced and showing up drunk to work.
Yeah, and apparently Tums works for it, but is also pretty dangerous apparently.
Yeah, well, you could take heartburn medicine, and that actually will prevent it from happening. But I don't know
that's
exactly.
Apparently pretty toxic. It's like it works. It works to prevent the reaction, but then it has its own toxicity.
Well, then why are you telling people about it, Ryan? What are you doing?
So I'm telling people not to do it. Don't do that. Just suffer with the red face.
Does ivermectin work for it? Just kidding. Okay.
Oh,
if you have worms.
More rising after this.